Good morning and welcome to the Sunday School lesson for Sunday, February the 14th, 2021. Showing loyalty. Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, 45 Church Street, Peterman, Tunnel Springs, Alabama, 36471 251 564 2171. The church where everybody is somebody and Christ is the head. Reverend Whalen Oliver is our pastor. Sister Joyce Oliver is our First Lady. Sister Lisa Starvis is our clerk. We have Sunday school every Sunday, normally at 9:30 a.m., but we have been doing it on Facebook and posting it on our church website, and we thank you all for listening. We have worship services on 2nd, 4th, and 5th Sundays at 11 a.m. normally, but we now have Sundays church services in the sanctuary virtually, as well as in the parking lot virtually on 2nd, 4th, and 5th Sundays. This is the second Sunday coming up, and we hope that you will be at our services today. So the virtual services will be recorded by our musician, Mr. Corey Robinson, and shared on the web page as well as on Facebook. Subject for today is showing loyalty. Showing loyalty. Our key verse for today: the 12 were with him, and certain women which had healed of evil spirit and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, and out of whom went 7 devils. The lesson aim is, as a result of experiencing this lesson, the participant should be able to do these things: discern Mary Magdalene's motivation for committing her life to Jesus, appreciate the sacrifice Mary Magdalene made in order to follow Jesus, embrace a lifestyle, wholehearted discipleship. The key terms for today is heal, that means to be cured; kingdom, the territory subject to the rule of a king; sovereignty, royal power; ministered, this is to attend to or helping; preaching, heralding, publishing, proclaiming. All right, let us begin with why this lesson matters. Being a truly committed follower is often difficult, but there are persons who reveal consistent loyalty no matter what happens. How do you know your loyalty and faithfulness? Mary Magdalene demonstrated her unwavering discipleship and loyalty to Jesus Christ through her actions. The lesson in focus. As we reflect, we have likely experienced the death of at least one person who meant a great deal to you. Perhaps we were touched unforgettably by their honorable examples of important sacrifice or gestures of kindness, words of wisdom, lessons for living, or their undeniable love for us. Relationships impact us deeply, and some changes our lives forever. Some change our lives forever. Whether young or old, male or female, it is hard to let go of those whom we have loved. Mary Magdalene demonstrated her tremendous loyalty for Jesus by her devotion to his ministry and by her presence and sorrow in his death. Jesus affirmed and honored Mary's sincere affection for him by allowing her to be the first person to whom he appeared. Mary Magdalene was a very special person because she was the first person to whom he appeared to after the resurrection. The lesson in context. Although church traditions have marked many women of the New Testament as promiscuous, there is no basis for this claim concerning Mary Magdalene. She was from a town called Magdala in Galilee, hence the name Mary Magdalene. Magdala was a thriving center for the fishing industry and was a manufacturing center for wool and woolen dyes. Jesus cures Mary Magdalene from an unknown illness, and she devoted herself to his ministry as one of the women who provided for Jesus, his followers, from their own financial resources. Mary Magdalene was a witness to Jesus' ministry in Galilee and Judea. In addition to listening to Jesus teach and supporting the ministry financially, she may have also dealt with the other practical ministry details. Mary joined a small group of women as witnesses to the crucifixion from a distance. You can see this in Mark, the 15th chapter and the 40th verse. Likely the same group who gathered with the disciples and Jesus' family in the upper room after the ascension. See Acts, the 1st chapter, verses 13 and 14. Mary was present at the crucifixion. You can see that in Mark, the 15th chapter, the 40th through the 41st verse. Luke, the 23rd chapter, and the 49th verse. You can see that in Matthew, the 27th chapter, the 55th and 56th verses. John 19 and 25. She helped to prepare Jesus' body for burial. You can see that in Luke, the 23rd chapter, the 55th and 56th verse. Matthew, the 27th verse, and the 27th chapter, and the 61st verse. Jesus was one of the first to arrive at the tomb on Easter morning. You can see this in Mark, the 16th chapter, verses 1 through 11. Luke, the 24th chapter, verses 1 through 11. Matthew, the 28th chapter, verses 1 through 10. And John, the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 18. This consistent series of actions shows her tremendous loyalty and love for Jesus. While all three Gospels accounts record her presence on the day of Jesus' resurrection, each one includes different details about what exactly happened. All right, excuse me. Making it challenging to develop a tight chronology of events. All right. How do you find the word loyalty to someone? What qualifies a person and inspired you to be loyal to him or her? Insights. Even born-again believers have experienced spiritual transformation through Jesus Christ. Spiritual transformation. The encounter with Jesus strengthens, supports, and sustains our faith. Our personal salvation experiences should serve as a foundation that gives meaning and motivation to our service in our local church. The work of God in our lives may also lead us to support others in doing ministry and mission work that we have not been called to do. God has equipped some to pray, some to give, some to encourage, some to labor behind the scene, and some to stand on the front lines of ministry. Teamwork and division of labor allows us to carry the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the whole world. By every measure, the crucifixion of Jesus was a bloody, brutal, horrific event. Imagine how these present to witness his death likely cringed at his pain and anguish on the cross. Only the loyal disciples would have the strength and courage to stand with someone and witness the sight of his public execution. Despite the unspeakable agony on the cross, we were able to rejoice in it with gratitude, knowing that the wages of sin is death. See Romans 6 and 23. Jesus endured the agony of the Calvary for our sake. He died for our sake in our place, enduring the penalty of sin, purchasing salvation for us with his own blood. Let's look at the first outline here. This is in Luke, the 8th chapter, verses 1 through 3, and Mark, the 15th chapter, verses 40. And it begins, "And it came to pass afterward that he went throughout every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God, and the 12 were with him." Jesus was about his Father's business. All right. "And certain women which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom he went seven devils. And Jonah, the wife of Shazur, Herod, Stewart, and Susan, and many others which ministered unto him of their substances." They ministered to Jesus. There were also women looking on afar off, among whom was Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and of Joseph and Salome. All right. Toward the end of his time of public ministry, Jesus toured Galilee, ministering to the masses as he headed toward the moment of his sacrifice on the cross. Luke and Mark recorded the names of the women who followed and supported Jesus' ministry. They were not among the 12, but they too were disciples or followers of Christ. Their attitude of devotion, generosity for Jesus was impacted, at least in part, by their personal experience in healing and deliverance through his ministry. Mary Magdalene should not be confused with Mary from Bethany. See John 12:1, the sister of Lazarus and Martha, as noted previously. Mary Magdalene came from the Magdala of Galilee at Jesus' command, and see Luke 8 in the chapter in the 2nd verse. Mary experienced deliverance from demon possession, specifically some form of healing or deliverance from some condition such as mental illness, depression, suicidal tendencies, or some unidentified physical infirmity. The second Mary who was present has been identified as the mother of the disciple James, the son of Alphaeus. See Mark, the 3rd chapter and 18th verse. Salome is described as the mother of James and John, the son of Zebedee. Matthew, the 27th chapter and 56th verse. The Gospel of Mark placed generous, devoted women at the beginning, middle, and end of Jesus' earthly ministry. Something for you to ponder. We are often tempted to give greater honors to frontline or visible roles in ministry. Explain the importance of the ministry that Mary Magdalene and other women fulfilled for Jesus. I want to say something here. In all ministries, there are folks in all elements of that ministry that support the ministry of the gospel. Say, for instance, there are folks that works in the kitchen that prepare food. There are folks that works in the sanctuary that usher people in. There are folks that clean the church or clean the things, or housing, and where ministers live. There's all types of ways in which the support elements of the gospel and the people doing those things help the ministry. And women worked in all of those areas, cleaning, cooking, doing anything else, the same as men do in the areas of supporting of the church ministry or the church. It's no different. It's still the same today. All right. Then the disciples went again unto their own home. But Mary stood without at the sepulchre, and weeping. As she wept, she stooped down and looked into the sepulchre, and said 2 angels were sitting, the one on the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She said unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. That's sincere loyalty and support for Jesus Christ. Now you understand perhaps why she was the first to see Jesus after his resurrection. After the crucifixion and the male disciples returned to their own living quarters in seclusion with each other and with their families, Mary Magdalene, however, remained at the burial site, hoping for some clue or answer, possessing her intense grief over Jesus' death and the mystery of his missing body as she lingered. Mary stooped and looked one more time through her tears into the tomb. That time she saw something unexpected, 2 angels that neither she nor the disciples had seen earlier. The sight of angels were often frightening, as in the case of Mary. You can see this in Luke, the 1st chapter, and the 30th verse. The shepherds, see Luke, the 2nd chapter, and the 10th verse, and Zechariah, Luke, the 1st chapter, and 11th verse. But Mary Magdalene was already overwhelmed with emotion when she saw the angels in the tomb. The angels were aware of what Mary did not know. that the time for being fearful and sorrowful had ended. Sometimes we are forced